तो हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू द चैनल। तो अब आ गए हैं अब डेवलपमेंट इकोनॉमिक्स के लिए एक फुल फ्लेजेड मैराथन लेकर। आई होप दैट योर गेम थ्योरी एंड इको ग्रोथ एग्जामिनेशन went well, but now it's time for development economics, a very important paper with vast syllabus and only 2 days for preparation. So without wasting any more time, let's begin with our marathon. So So let's first quickly take a look at what our syllabus is all about. So basically we have 4 units. Unit 1, Introducing Economic Development. Unit 1 would be Introducing Economic Development, in which we have Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 to Darrow and Smith book. And in addition, we have Human Development Report 2016. Okay. Now in Unit 2, we basically have Theories of Economic Development to Darrow and Smith, Chapter 3. Unit 3, it basically concerns about the strategy of economic development, institutional pathways, in which we have these three readings, these three basic chapters basically: problems of capital formation by Ragnar Nurse, linkages by Hirschman, and strategies for economic development. So, and our last unit, and our most scoring and most easy unit that I would uh, suggest, that is poverty and inequality, in which we have three chapters mainly: poverty as capability deprivation, economic inequality, and poverty and undernutrition. So this was all about a brief overview about what our syllabus comprised of. We have 4 units. The easiest one, according to me, is Unit 4, Poverty and Inequality, which will definitely go on to give you around I can say 15 to 18 marks in the paper if you prepare it well. Okay, so let's start our one short marathon. And quickly, I would suggest that you subscribe to the channel and pull on the notification bell so that whenever we bring some important and useful content for examination purposes, you can be get you can be notified really quickly. So let's begin. Okay. So basically, what our methodology would be for this marathon? Let's talk about that. We will first see some important topics from every unit. Like basically, these would be question types that can basically come from every chapter, every unit. And in the end, after covering important topics from all the units, we will try to go through the PYQs, and we will see like what has been a trend about the PYQs. So this can be a very long recording, about 2 hours, I would say. It's not really that long, but yeah, the it can be around 2 hours long. So I would suggest that you write along so that important things can get in your mind and you can absorb the data very well. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so we will begin with Unit 4, the easiest unit as per me. So let's begin. Unit 4. The very first topic that is coming for us is about the criteria for inequality measurement. Okay, so basically we have four criteria, and my mnemonic for that is A, P, R, D. You can make anything like that. So we have four criteria for inequality measurement. The first one is anonymity principle. So this principle just says that it does not matter who is earning the income. A situation where A earns X and B earns Y, individual B earns Y, should be viewed as identical. Identical to one in which A earns Y and B earns X. So basically, you have to understand that when we are measuring income inequality, there are four principles that are very important for determining what is a viable criteria for inequality measurement. Okay, so basically, first one, it says about that income distribution should be, the measure should be anonymous. It should follow anonymity principle. Like we just need the income distribution. A earns X or B earns Y, it does not matter. It can be A earns Y and B earns X also. Okay. So another point is right. Permutations of income among people should not matter for inequality judgments. So our income distribution is represented such as, so basically the permutations of income distribution should not matter for inequality judgments. Okay, income distribution is denoted by y1 less than equal to y2 less than equal to y3 and so on till less than equal to 1. Okay, so this is our denotion for income distribution. All right. Now second principle we have is population principle. You can pause the video and first understand every principle, every point, then only you can retain it right well in the exam. Okay, so this principle, it says cloning the entire population and the incomes should not alter inequality. If we compare an income distribution and another, if we compare the income distribution over n people, another population of 2n people, with same income pattern repeated twice, there should be no difference in inequality. Among the two income distributions. So basically, what this population principle is explaining, like if we have an income distribution, let's say about 50 people, and we know the pattern about it. Like let's say top 20 are the richest ones, and the bottom 30 are the poorest ones. So if we clone the population, like if we uh, double the population, let's say 100 people, so the income pattern should not change. So there is no difference in inequality between the two population, two income distributions. There is a graph, like you can include it in your answers while explaining this principle. Let's quickly draw it. This says percentage of population, and this is income range. Okay, So basically, this is something like this. It does not explain much, anything vital, but still, it's given in the reading, so it can boost the marks. Such. Okay. Let's now move to point principle 3, that is relative income principle. Relative income principle. Okay. All right. It says just as population shares matter, and absolute values of population itself do not values of population itself do not. It is possible to argue that only relative income should. Only relative income should matter, and an absolute level of income should not. If one income distribution is obtained from another by scaling, everybody's income up or down by the same percentage, then inequality should be no different across. Should be no different across the two distributions. Okay, so let's quickly revise this. Relative income principle, just as population shares matter and absolute values population itself do not, like we saw in anonymity principle, it is possible to argue that only relative incomes should matter and absolute levels of income should not. If one income distribution is obtained from another by scaling everybody's income up or down by the same percentage, then inequality should be no different across the two distributions. For example, let's say we have an income distribution which has income such as 40, 50, 70, 75, and we derive another income distribution by scaling everybody's income by 10%. 10% upwards. So we get 44, 55, 77, and 82.5. So basically, the inequality in this distribution and in this distribution is not different. So this is meant by the relative income principle. Okay. Now let's move to our fourth criteria, that is Dalton's principle. This is the most asked question in the exams, Dalton's principle. Okay, so it says let y1, y2 until yn be an income distribution. Be an income distribution and consider two incomes. Consider two income levels. yi comma yj, such that we have yi is less than equal to y. Okay. Now we have income distribution for n people, and we consider two income levels yi, yj, where yi is less than equal to yj. So basically, what this implies is that yi lies to the left of yj. Okay. Now a transfer of income from not richer to not poorer, not richer to not poorer individual uh, is called a regressive transfer. Okay, now read this very carefully. A transfer of income not richer. Not richer means a poorer individual to not poorer. Not poorer means a richer individual. So we're transferring basically some income from poor section of the population to the rich section. This is known as regressive transfer. Regressive transfer. Now the main theorem is coming up. The Dalton principle. Now, just for reference, this Dalton principle is also known as Pigou-Dalton principle. Okay, so the Dalton principle states that in if one income distribution can be achieved from another, by constructing a sequence of regressive transfers. Regressive transfer, we're transferring income from not richer to not poorer. Okay, series of regressive transfer. The new income distribution is more unequal. This is basically an economical understanding. Like we are basically transferring income from the poorer section to richer section. So basically, the income inequality would widen and diversify. Okay, so then the new income distribution is more unequal. Okay, so this completes our criteria for inequality measurement, but there is some important things left in this topic. We have to mention the mathematical interpretation as well, that is given in our reading. So let's quickly see it. So first we have an inequality index represented by I, letter I, capital I, which is denoted by I of y1, a function of incomes, y2 until yn. A higher value of I implies higher and greater inequality. Greater inequality. Okay. So let's quickly see what mathematical interpretations we have. We have an anonymity principle. Now in this we have function I is completely insensitive to all permutations of income distribution. That is y1, y2 until yn among n individuals. Like basically these things you have got to write when explaining the principles. N individuals, 1, 2 until n. Okay. Now for population, the mathematical interpretation says that for every distribution y1 y2 until yn equals I of y1 y2 yn, and basically we are cloning, like revisit the population principle notes. You written that just as the absolute levels or permutations of income didn't matter, then we can clone the population. If we have n individuals, distribution over n individuals, if we clone it to 2n individuals with the same income pattern, then inequality would not change, would not be altered. Okay, so we are cloning it again from y1 to yn. The inequality index value remains the same. It is I only. Okay, so cloning all members of the population. Their incomes has no effect. Okay. Okay. Now for a relative income principle. Now in this we are scaling up everybody's income in the income distribution by a certain percentage, but the percentage should be same. Okay. So for every positive number lambda, we have I of y1 y2 until yn equals I of lambda y1 lambda y2 until lambda yn. So basically we are proving that inequality index, when we scale everybody's income by a positive number lambda, then inequality index remains the same, like inequality is not altered. Now for Dalton principle, we have for we are taking a parameter for delta greater than 0, inequality index of y1 y2 yi we have, yj we have until yn. This is less than equal to I of y1 y2 from yi. For poorer one we are taking delta income. To richer individual yj we are giving delta income until yn. So once, so basically the inequality index has increased when we have done the regressive transfer from yi to yj. Okay, so the ultimate principle is proved by this regressive transfer. Let's write for a quick recap. Regressive transfer, inequality has increased because high value of I, inequality index indicates greater inequality. Inequality increases in the new distribution. Okay, inequality increases in the new distribution. All right. So this was all about our criteria for inequality measurement. For everyone, for each of these, we have given mathematical interpretation, which are very very important. Okay. Now let's move to the second topic from this unit. Very very important from exam point of view. That would be our Lorenz curve. All right. First, quickly write what basically Lorenz curve tells us. This is arrangement of cumulative income, cumulative income shares in ascending order. Okay, so one important thing about Lorenz curve when you will drawing in the examination, always draw in a closed square box. Closed square box. On the vertical axis we have percentage of cumulative income shares, and on the horizontal axis we have cumulative population shares. Okay, so let's begin to write about Lorenz curves a little bit. Okay, all right. So let's draw. Guys, there was some disruption in the audio, but I hope now it's fine. So basically, we have discussed Lorenz curve in the last few minutes. So it is basically arrangement of cumulative income shares, ascending order. On y-axis, we have cumulative income. On x-axis, cumulative population. This straight line which cuts the square box in half, it is known as the line of equality. The more tilted away from the line of equality is this Lorenz curve, the more unequal is the distribution of income. Now we were writing some important pointers about it. Now since we have ordered individuals from poorest to richest, this marginal contribution cannot fall. Okay, so what this implies is Lorenz curve can never get flatter as you move from left to right. Okay, there was some question from in the past years which asked like can Lorenz curve get flatter as you move from left to right, but it is not possible since we are arranging the income distribution in ascending order, so this marginal contribution cannot fall, so Lorenz curve cannot never get flatter. Okay, so this was something about Lorenz curve. Now we have another criteria in addition to those four criteria of inequality measurement, which is known as the Lorenz criteria. Lorenz criteria. Okay, if the Lorenz curve of a distribution lies At every point to the right, every point to the right of Lorentz curve of some other distribution. The former would be judged more unequal than the latter. Okay, so basically, let us suppose there are two Lorentz curves. Okay, there are two Lorentz curves. If the Lorentz curve or distribution it lies at every point to the right of Lorentz curve of some other distribution, then the that distribution which lies to the right to the more of to the right of the other distribution, another Lorentz curve, it is more unequal. We saw this point before also. Let's see it graphically now. We have this line of inequality. Let's say we have L1 Lorentz curve. So this is L1, and we also have L2. Pardon the drawing part, but imagine like L2 lies every point to the right origin. Okay, so then L2, if L2 Lorentz curve is lying to the right of every point of L1 Lorentz curve, then L2 is more unequal. Okay, so again in mathematical terms, Lorentz consistent, if a measure is Lorentz consistent, if income distribution with incomes y1, y2 until yn, if inequality index is greater than equal to inequality index with incomes z1, z2 until zn, wherever Lorentz curve income distribution y1, y2 until yn lies to right everywhere of income distribution z1, z2 until zn. To understand this more in a more good, better manner, let us understand that let L2 with the incomes with y1 to yn, and let L1 be from z1 to zn. Since y1 to yn Lorentz curve L2 lies everywhere to the right of L1 Lorentz curve, this is Lorentz consistent. Okay, so this is what it says: inequality index higher value indicates greater inequality. So if inequality index with y1 to yn income greater than equal to inequality index of z1 to zn income, wherever Lorentz curve of y1 to yn incomes lies to right everywhere of z1 to zn. Okay. Now we have another thing here. An inequality measure is consistent with Lorentz criteria if and only if it is simultaneously consistent with anonymity, population relative income. Basically, the other four principles, like which we studied in the first topic, relative income, and Dalton principle. Okay, so an inequality measure would be said to be consistent with Lorenz criteria if and only if it is simultaneously consistent with anonymity, population, relative income, and Dalton principle. So this is was all about Lorenz curve. Okay, we will be doing some numericals at the end from the past years. Okay, now there is some other thing as well from Lorenz curve topic, which is important. So let's see what this is. So we have to prove, let us say, that Lorenz curve satisfies Dalton principle. Dalton principle. Recall what is Dalton principle? If we have a regressive transfer from not richer to not poorer, we're transferring income from not richer to not poorer. It is known as regressive transfer. Then the new income distribution after the regressive transfer that would be more unequal. Okay, so we are taking an example in which we transfer income from 40th percentile to 80th percentile. To 80th percentile. So how would this go? Let us understand. So this is our line of equality. This is cumulative income. This is cumulative population. Okay, so let us first draw the initial Lorenz curve. This is the initial Lorenz curve. Let us say this is our 40th percentile, and we have some income level here, and this is our 80th percentile and some cumulative share here. Okay, now we're transferring 40th percentile to 80th percentile because the people at 40th percentile are poorer than 80th percentile. Okay, so how would this be depicted? All right, now till the 40th percentile, Lorentz curve would be uh, coinciding. Okay, so it would, let's take a different color for this. Take in blue color. Till the 40th percentile, this would coincide the new Lorentz curve. But after 40th percentile, this would break up a little. It's not that much cleaner. Let's try again. And we're taking red color. Till the 40th percentile, this would coincide, but after that, it would break up a little and till the 80th percentile, and it will merge back at the 80th percentile to coincide with it again. Okay, so we can see from here that new Lorentz curve is bowed to the right of old Lorentz curve. Thus inequality rises. Thus inequality rises. The ultimate principle is satisfied. So we have wanted to prove that through Dalton principle, the new income distribution would be more unequal. So since this is bowed out more than the L1, the white Lorenz curve, therefore the Dalton principle is satisfied. Okay. Now another important thing about it, if Lorenz curve of two income distributions if Lorenz curve cross, no comparisons can be made. Now for a quick example, let's just draw freehand. Let us say once let us say this is the first Lorenz curve. Um, once and this is the second Lorenz curve. Now we can see that till the point of intersection, this second Lorenz curve, the bowed out one, it is more unequal. But after the intersection, this bowed out Lorenz curve, which was before the intersection, it is more equal than the other one. So no comparisons can be made. Okay. So this completes a Lorenz curve topic. Okay. Now there is enough content here to be understood and memorized about it. The property, the Dalton principle proof, this all uh, is important. Like this can be asked, and this is a bit easier. Okay. Now I will be frank that in development economics there can be some crude theory questions, but this is all we can do about the numerical part. We will solve numericals at the end also, so no worries. Now let's move to the third topic which we have from unit 4, that is complete measures of inequality. Now why we need some more complete measures of inequality? The question, Lorenz curve lacks in number of policy lacks in a concrete number. It does not provide a concrete number about what can be really done about the income inequality. It just plots cumulative income shares against cumulative population shares. So it is a bit of an incomplete measure, like, but it is empirically very the most used empirical measure, that is the Lorenz curve. But still we have concrete number is missing for policymakers. Just give your readings a quick read, and then you can switch to this one short video, so things would be falling in sense and falling in right places for you all. Okay, so if Lorentz curves also cross, no useful rankings can be made about the income distribution that we saw earlier. Okay, now let's move to the complete measures. So first one we have is average income. These are very easy concepts. Yeah, you must be familiar with them through statistics, if through statistics formulas, but still, average income denoted by nu, it equals summation of ni yi nu equals summation ni yi, where n is population. Okay, so we would be having income distribution, let us say n1, n2, n3, n4, and so on, and we would be having income levels y1, y2, y3, y4, and so on. So we just multiply them up and add them, and we divide by the total number of observations. Okay, next we have is range. Next we have is range. So for range we have y max minus y mini, that's maximum income distribution minus minimum income from a distribution upon mu. Okay, so this is the formula for range. Okay. Now they have given the readings that in range, this range measure, it fails Dalton's principle. Now why is that? Let us see. Dalton's principle fails. Now why is that? Let us suppose we have income distribution yi, we have 20, 30, 70, 100. Okay, and observations which we have four observations. So let us first calculate the average income. That is, that would equal come out to be 20 plus 30, 50 plus 70, 120 plus 100, 220 divided by 4. This would come out to be 55 if I'm not wrong. Okay, and our range would come out to be about 100 minus 20, 80 upon 55. 80 upon 55, this comes out to be 1.45. Okay, now let us say we construct another distribution by making a regressive transfer from not poorer to not richer. So we take rupees 10 from this 20 earning individual and give it to the 70 earning individual. Or we can do something like we take 10 rupees from this 30 rupees earning individual and give it to 70 earning individual. So our another income distribution would be ya dash, in which we have 20, we have 20, we have 80, and we have 100. So our average would remain the same. We have just subtracted 10 and added 10, so no difference. Now what is the range? Let us see. We have range again 100 minus 20, 80 upon 55. This comes out to 1.45. Now the range hasn't changed after even after regressive transfer. So inequality doesn't change. Dalton's principle says that inequality should increase. So that is why our Dalton's principle fails. Dalton's principle fails. Okay, now the next measure we have, this is known as Kuznets ratio. Sorry, Kuznets ratio. Now this ratio is from rich to richest X% of the population to poorest Y% of the population. Okay. Now these X and Y can be 10, 20, 40, like we can compute richest 10% to poorest 20% or poorest 40% or something like that. Not much fixed about it. So this is our Kuznets ratio. Now this also fails Dalton's principle. Dalton's principle. Now why is that? Let us say we are having Kuznets ratio A equals to richest 10% to poorest, or let us say 20%. Okay, now we make a regressive transfer. Regressive transfer from, let us say, 30th percentile to 80th percentile. Now this transfer is not recorded in the Kuznets ratio because we are just saying we are calculating richest 10% to poorest 20%. So richest 10% would be above the 90th percentile. Poorest 20% would be below the 20th percentile. So through regressive transfer, 30th percentile income we are giving from 30th percentile to 80th percentile. So no change in K. Okay, Dalton's principle fails. Okay, all right. Now next we have mean absolute deviation. mean absolute deviation. This is also a simple concept. We have mean absolute deviation as summation of ni modulus of yi minus nu upon nu. This is not a complex formula. You can just use it like something like if we have an income distribution such as 20, 30, 70, 150, 200, you just compute nu, then you compute deviations from nu and take their absolute values. You just sum up the absolute values and then divide by total income. This basically is total income, average income into number of people. And try to think about why this fails Dalton's principle. Dalton's principle fails. Let's try to think about it. Now, if we make a receipt transfer, let us say from 30, they are giving rupees, taking rupees 10 from 30 and giving it to 150. So the average income would change. Average income remains the same. We're just adding and subtracting the same number from the distribution, and the deviations the deviations would change. But when we sum them up and the absolute values, no change would be there in the mean absolute deviation. No change in m value. This uh, this exercise you must take on yourself to see if you can understand this well. Okay. Now next thing we have is coefficient of variation. This is also some concept you must have done in statistics course. We have coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation. In crude terms, in normal statistics language, this is all about sigma upon x bar into 100. Standard deviation about upon mean into 100. Now in development economics uh, context, we have the formula coefficient of variation under root summation ni yi minus nu bar whole square upon n and divided by nu, dividing it completely by nu. This is not different from this. This is basically this only because nu x bar similar to x bar. Now from standard deviation we are following the same formulas we use in statistics. We are finding the absolute deviations from the mean income, squaring them up and adding them. Okay, and we divide it by n. Okay, so this is basically sigma upon x bar into 100 only. Now next and the most important thing, that is Gini coefficient. Gini coefficient. Now for geometric interpretation, we have area between line and curve. Line and Lorenz curve whole upon area below the line of equality. But area below line of equality is half, because you must remember we have a square box. This is the line of equality and area below the line of equality is half because it is exactly cutting the square in half. So Gini coefficient value comes out to be twice area between line and Lorenz curve. Okay. Now for the Gini coefficient formula, the formal interpretation and formula according to development economics readings, it says we have 1 upon 2 nu n square and pairwise differences among the income levels. Ni, Nk, absolute deviations, absolute differences, absolute pairwise differences. Okay, so this is the formula. Now let us do a quick example for Gini coefficient and you would feel comfortable. Okay, so first let's write g equals 1 upon 2 nu n square. 1 upon 2 nu n square into summation 1 to m ni nk yi minus yk. Now, when calculating any values from COV or Gini coefficient, Kuznets ratio, you have got to mention a formal formula because this has marks. This contains marks. Okay, a 1 mark or 2 marks, but that is crucial. So let us say you have incomes 10, 20, 30. Okay, so let us say we have n equals 3 here, and our nu equals 10 plus 20, 30 to 30, 60 upon 3 comes out to be 20. Okay, now we have got to calculate the pairwise differences and their absolute values. So we take yi minus yk. So we have 10, 20 and 30. Okay, so for 10 we have 10 minus 10. The absolute value is 10 minus 10, 10 minus 10, 10 minus 20, 10 minus 30. For 20 we have 20 minus 10, 20 minus 20, 20 minus 30. For 30 similarly we have 30 minus 10, 30 minus 20, 30 minus 30. Okay, now for absolute differences we take, this comes out to be 10, 20, 10, 0, 10, 20, 10, 0. Okay, now we sum them up. This comes out to be 10 plus 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 80. 80. Okay, so our Gini coefficient value, it is the sum of pairwise differences, absolute values of pairwise differences, 50 upon 2 into mean level of income that was coming out to be 20 into the average into the square of population. We have 3 observations, so n square would be 9. This comes out to be 0.222. Okay, now another interpretation, if g equals 0, perfect equality would exist. Now interpret it, if g equals 0, which implies that pairwise differences are 0. So everybody has the same income. Everybody has income 10 or everybody has income 20. So g equals 0, perfect equality. If g equals 1, we have perfect inequality. Okay, all right. All right. So we have another example, another numerical example that would strengthen your understanding. So let us say we have first income distribution, income 1, that is 3, 12, 12. We have second income distribution, income 2, 4, 9, 14. So we have average income of first as 12 plus 12, 24, that's 27, divided by 3, 9, 4% 13, again this is 9. Now we take S1 as the sum of all pairwise differences, that would come out to be, let us say, absolute differences we need. Then for 12, this would come out to be 36. You can calculate it self also. Now S2, This comes out to be 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5 plus 5 plus 10 plus 5. This comes out to be 40. Okay, so G1, Gini coefficient for first one, this comes out to be 36 upon 2 into nu into n square, 9.222. For G2, we have 40, 2 into 9 again, 2 nu n square, 0.25. Okay, now let's just calculate coefficient of variation, 1, coefficient of variation for second one. So for this, we need to find the absolute deviations, square them up, and then add them up. So we have deviations yi minus nu. We have income nu as 9, so this would go out to be 6, 3, and 3. We square them up, we get 36, 9, and 9. We add them up, so standard deviation under root 36 plus 9, 45 plus 9, 54 upon n. So this comes out to be root 18. New we had 9, COE 1, root 18 upon 9, 0.4714. Now for COV2, we have the deviations from mean income 5, absolute deviations 5, 0, and 5. We square them up and add them up, we get standard deviation under root 50 upon 3 comes out to be, and COV comes out to be, COV2 comes out to be, COV2 comes out to be 1/9 root 50.45. Okay, so let's compare which income distribution is more unequal. So basically we can see we have G1, Gini coefficient of income distribution, one is 0.22 and 0.25 for second. So here we see that as G2 is higher, then the whichever Gini coefficient is closer to 0, it is more equal. Okay, so G2 is more unequal. Now coefficient of variation, let's see. So we have got COV1, we have got COV1 as 0.47 and COV2 is 0.45. So in whichever distribution COV is greater, it is more unequal. So here also first is more unequal. Okay, so this is a case where both coefficient of variation along with coefficient of variation and Gini coefficient, they are not going in the same direction. Gini coefficient is telling that country income distribution second is more unequal, and coefficient of variation analysis is telling us that income distribution 1 is more unequal. So no definite observation can be made. Okay, so this can be a case in the numerical given in the exam. Okay, so this sums up our more complete measures of inequality. Now we will move forward with our measures of poverty. Measures of poverty. Okay, so first basically we have poverty line, which is an expenditure threshold that is regarded as minimally necessary for adequate participation in economic life. So basically, a minimum basic level of expenditure level can interpret it in that manner. Poverty line, which is an expenditure threshold that is regarded as minimally necessary for adequate participation in economic life. Okay. So now we have three ratios which are extremely easy to understand. First, we have head count ratio, or in short, we know it as HCR, which is number of people such that the incomes of those is less than the poverty line. P is the poverty line upon uh, the total population of uh, total population or the number of people who are poor. Number of people. Okay, so HCR is, let us say there are 50 people. Poverty line is rupees 200, and for 30 people, we know that income is 170. Okay, so we can calculate HCR as, for 30 people we have 30 people have uh, incomes below poverty line, so we calculate it as 30 upon 50. So basically this is 60%. HCR is 60%. So this is basically number of poor people upon total number of people. Okay, now second ratio we have is, but one important thing before we move to next one, HCR fails to capture the extent to which individual incomes fall below poverty line. Okay, now HCR cannot capture the extent, like the uh, degree by which a person's income is below the poverty line. For example, let us say in another, let us take another example. Let us say, for example, n is 50, and for 30 people, we have incomes such as someone is earning 170, 150, 140, and poverty line is defined 200 again. Okay, so HCR would be around again 60%, because 30 people have incomes below poverty line of 200, but we are not able to make any contrast or analysis about what is the extent by which incomes of below poverty line people diverge from the poverty line. Like in HCI analysis, all these people earning 170, 150, 140, they are all below poverty line. That's it. We're not able to analyze and make a granular analysis about how much extent, to how much extent a person's income is below the poverty below the poverty line. All these people, they come under same umbrella, under HCR. Okay, this was simple but important point. Okay, now the next ratio that we have is PGR, or poverty gap ratio. Poverty gap ratio. Now PGR, the formula is summation of such that yi, summation of the incomes of people who are uh, less than the poverty line. We take the divisions from the poverty line of those people who are below poverty line. Okay, divided by m into n, total income. Basically, some denotions, total income of distribution. Let us say we have poverty line defined as 200 again, and we have n is 50, and let us say for 30 people earn 30 people earn around let's not do this example here. We will take up the example in the numerical example towards the end of the topic or end of all the topics. Now in this PGR we take divisions of incomes of those people who are below the poverty line. Okay. Another one we have IGR, income gap ratio, which has a similar formula, just a small distinction. Incomes of those people who are less than poverty line, and we take again the deviations, but we divide it by poverty line into headcount ratio. Basically, we are dividing it here. We are dividing it by total income, the entire observation, entire distribution. Here, we are dividing it total income of only poor, only BPL people. Okay, so basically PGR we divide by total income, entire income of the population. In IGR we divide by income of only uh, the people who are below poverty line. So this sums up our poverty ratios. So now let's move to the next topic. This is poverty as a capability deprivation. Okay, so let's continue this topic now. Okay, so let's continue with poverty as capability deprivation. So this is a nice reading. You can give a quick reading to it and make your own notes. But I will be writing some important pointers which can help you to frame your answers, because uh, this question will come just a direct question, and it's just like you have got to understand what is the main core theme this topic is telling us. So let's write. Poverty must be seen as the deprivation of basic capabilities rather than merely as the lowness of incomes, which is standard criteria of identification of poverty. So basically, what the author is telling us, that we cannot just reduce poverty as a sole as the sole factor of income deprivation. It is a holistic concept of capability deprivation, of which income is just a parameter, contributing parameter. Okay, which is standard criteria of identification of poverty. Identification of poverty. Okay. Now we have, let's write relation between income and capability. Would be strongly affected by age of person, gender, social roles, location, etc. In making contrast of population growth of population groups classified according to age, gender. Age, gender, location. Parametric variations are particularly important. Particularly important. Now, there can be some coupling of disadvantages. Between income deprivation and adversity. There can be some coupling of disadvantages between income deprivation and adversity in converting income into functionings. Age or disability. Age or disability or illness reduce one's ability to earn an income. This also makes it harder to convert income into capability. Since an older or more disabled person may acquire more income to achieve the same functionings. Okay, now third point, distribution within the family. Raises further complications. With the income approach to poverty. Income approach to poverty. If the family income is disused disproportionately, in the interest of some family members and not others, then the extent of deprivation of neglected members maybe not be adequately reflected in terms of family income. Okay, then we have another point about it, that is fourth one, relative deprivation in terms of income can yield absolute deprivation in terms of capabilities. Being relatively poor in a being relatively poor in a rich country can be a great capability handicap. When one even when one's absolute income is high in terms of world standards. In a generally opulent country, more income is needed to buy enough commodities to achieve the same social functioning. Okay. So this is all about my important pointers from this reading. Now let's quickly try to understand what capability deprivation approach is uh, trying to tell us. Like there is a relation between income and capability, and there is a strong multitude of factors which lead to capability deprivation. Income is just one factor. Okay, so that income and capability are strongly affected by age of person, gender, and social roles of a person. Okay, now there can be uh, capability deprivation in terms of conversion of income into functionings. Like let's say there is a person, person A, person B. Person A is completely fit and fine. He is able to lead a long and healthy life, economic life. While person B is basically he cannot. He has a loss of vision, so he also has the same income, but to generate the same social functionings or the same facilities, he has to allocate more funds or more income to achieve the same social functionings. Okay, so that was all about it. Now, in there can be a case where in the family the income is disproportionately skewed towards some individuals. Let's say towards boy child more and less towards the girl child. So this factor would not be accounted in the income distribution surveys and all. Now, it can also be relative deprivation. While like if you are living in a rich country but you are relatively poor, like in terms of world income levels, your income is somewhere close to that, but in your own country you are relatively poor. That can also be capability deprivation, because you would require more income or to buy enough commodities and achieve the same level of social standards in society. Okay, so let's try to build a mind map about what really capability approach is trying to tell us. So capability perspective. Okay, so this is enhance understanding of nature and cause of poverty, uh, by taking us from means, that is income, to ends which people have reason to pursue along with freedoms to be able to satisfy the needs. Now we have understanding poverty and deprivation in terms of lives. People can actually lead. People can actually lead in the freedoms they do actually have. They do actually have. So this is a flow of ideas in poverty as a capability deprivation. Okay, now it is enhancing understanding of poverty through its nature and causes, and we are going from means, that is the income, to ends which people have reason to pursue with their freedoms. Okay, now we are understanding poverty and deprivation in terms of lives that people can actually lead. Okay, so this was all about our topic, poverty and capability deprivation. So this completes our unit number 4, which I think is a fairly easy one to score and very high scoring unit. So you must prepare this well. Okay, so now we will be moving to unit 1, where we have Todaro and Smith, chapter 1, chapter 2, and HDR report, Human Development Report 2016. So let's continue with this. So let's move to chapter 2 from Todaro and Smith, chapter 1, sorry. So we have got to give a fair reading chapter 1. There is not much exam oriented stuff or content there. So we are moving to chapter 2 now. Okay, so let's let's try to have a fair idea about what chapter 2 is telling us. We have comparative economic development. Okay, so we have section 2.2, which says about, let's start. So this basically tells us classification of national economic development. National economic development. Okay, so basically we have here we have low income countries, LICs. We have lower middle income countries, LMCs. We have upper middle income countries, UMCs, and we have high income countries, HICs. Now the cutoff for income levels is GNI per capita. GNI per capita less than $996. We have the reading of 2018 year, so this data is for 2018, and we will use this only in exams. It is 994 to 3895. One sec. 3895 dollars. Okay. For UMCs we have 3896 to 12,055. Mention it. Okay. For HICs, high income countries, we have above 12,055. Above 12,055. Okay. For low income countries, low middle income, upper middle income, and high income countries. Lower income, lower middle income, upper middle, and high income. Okay, so this was this. Now they make some comparison about LIC and UMCs. Okay. Okay. So basically, now we have the Human Development Index, another exam-oriented topic. Okay. So let's move in that direction. Human Development Index. Okay, I have prepared a Word document for Human Development Index. So let's see that. Okay, so this is my data for Human Development Index. Now, this is the HDI methodology. We have to compute three indices, which are health index, uh, health index, and education index, and uh, one more index was there. One second, an income index. Okay, health, education, and income. So these are the values you have to remember. You have to memorize them. The minimum and maximum threshold for life expectancy 20 years to 85 years. Expected year of schooling 0 and 18. Minimum and max. For mean year of schooling we have 0 and 15. For GNI per capita we use the log values in the formula. Okay. So we have for GNI per capita $100 and $75,000. Okay. Now for dimension index, every index we take actual value of the country which would be given in the question minus minimum upon max minus minimum. And HDI would be the geometric mean of three indices. Like all the three indices hold multiplied and their cube root. Okay. So now there are some categories also mentioned in the reading. Like if we get HDI value less than 0.550, it is low HDI. Medium HDI 0.55 to 0.69, high HDI 0.7 to 0.79, and very high greater than 0.8. Now there are also comprehensively mentioned some differences between old versus new methodology of HDI, which is this. Okay. So this says that we take geometric mean now, but earlier it was arithmetic mean. Now, why this was done? Because arithmetic mean, uh, arithmetic mean we assume perfect substitutability. Like if a country is doing better in education but not in health, it could substitute it. But in geometric mean, we look for all-round development. Okay, geometric mean ensures poor performance in any one index leads to poor HDI. Okay, now HDI in geometric mean captures how well rounded the country's performance is. Due to imperfect substitutability, geometric mean is preferred methodology. Okay, now GNI per capita was had replaced GDP per capita because GNI per capita better captures the income of country's residents. Okay, two previous components of education index, literacy and enrollment ratio, were dropped because they were infrequent reporting of data and low guarantee of grade completion. Now we'd also used common log instead of natural log in the new methodology, and it is more usual nomenclature in empirical or research studies. So this was all about our HDI topic. Now these examples you can these differences between old and new you should see box 2.1. Box 2.1 of the readings. These similarities and differences among developing countries. I will attach the PDF and the Word document in the description of the video, so no need to worry about that. Among developing countries. This also I have prepared the Word document. Shift there. Okay, so here we have mentioned we have human capital attainments, a topic where they have given some data. Now in this you have to memorize around 6 to 7 uh, similarities, and the basic content would be some empirical data. Like in human capital attainments, we have under 5 mortality rate in 15 times higher in low income countries as compared to high income countries, and sub-Saharan African, South Asian regions. These are used in almost every point. The example of these countries. Then we have inequality and absolute poverty, population growth and age structure, and then we have extent of financial and other market development. And there are levels of income and productivity and levels of industrialization and manufactured exports. You can go through these points, and this is a very guaranteed question, uh, like most expected question from chapter 2, unit 1. Okay, so this was all about this. Okay, now we move further. You can go through chapter 2, but basically the most important things we have covered about this. And we have technical notes of HDR report 2016, which you can go through the minimum and maximum. Uh, they have explained some methodology, empirical evidences, and all. Okay, now this was all about unit 1, and we have covered unit 1, unit 4. Okay, now we would be moving forward to unit number 2, specifically unit number 2. Unit number 2. So for unit 2, we have chapter 3 from Todaro and Smith, which says classical theories of economic growth and development. Okay, so in this you can give a reading to introductory pages, which we have some theories which they explain, such as linear stages theorem, a linear stages theory, which is basically based on capital fundamentalism, like capitalist and capital basically fuels economic growth among in the nations. Capital fundamentalism, accelerated physical capital accumulation, accumulation. Okay. Then we have another important one, that is Rostow's stages of growth. Basically says is that transition from underdevelopment to development can be described in terms of a series of steps through which all countries must proceed. Okay, so like Rostow is saying that all economies at some point or another, at some point of the phase of their economic growth, they have to pass through certain stages. Now, what are these stages? That is, first is traditional society, basically agrarian society, where there is basically subsistence, production, and consumption. Then we have some preconditioning for takeoff into self-sustaining growth. Takeoff into self-sustaining growth. Third stage is about the takeoff. The country finally transforms into a developed nation. Then fourth is the drive to maturity. And fifth one is our age of high mass consumption. Age of high mass consumption. Okay, now the main thing start from here. That is our Harrod-Domar model. Harrod-Domar growth model. So, what is this? This is basically a functional economic relationship in which the growth rate of gross domestic product is G depends directly on the national net savings rate. National net savings rate and inversely national capital output ratio. Capital output ratio. Now, some more definitions. Capital output ratio. This tells about the units of capital required to produce a unit of output. over a given period of time. Over a given period of time. Then we have net savings ratio. Savings expressed as a proportion of disposable income over some period of time. Over some period of time. Okay, now let's quickly move to the mathematical portion. Capital output ratio, basically K upon Y. Net savings ratio, it is basically we have savings ratio into output. So Harrod-Doman model, basically it is a functional economic relationship in which the growth rate of GDP, that is G, it depends positively on savings rate and negatively on capital output ratio. So let us say we have net savings S equals small s into Y. S is the savings rate. Our investment is the change in capital stock equals delta K. Capital output ratio K upon Y. Then we have C equals delta K upon delta Y, or delta K is C into delta Y. Now here we can say that 1 upon C is the measure of efficiency of capital utilization. Measure of efficiency of capital utilization. Now we have an identity: net savings must equal net investment. So we have S equals I. Small s into Y should be equal to change in capital stock. Then we have S into Y should be equal to C into delta Y. So when we rearrange, we get that delta Y equals Sy upon C, or delta Y. Dividing both sides by Y, we get delta Y upon Y equals savings rate upon capital output ratio. Okay, so from here we can say growth rate of output is uh, positively proportional to directly proportional to savings rate, and growth rate of output inversely proportional to capital output ratio. Capital output ratio inversely proportional to capital output ratio. Okay. Also, we have another expression for this. Delta Y upon Y is gross savings rate. If we are given the gross savings rate upon capital output ratio minus delta, this is depreciation. Okay. So we have some implications of this model. First, let's try to understand. Okay, so we have S equals savings rate into output, that is Y, and we have investment, the change in capital stock. Capital output ratio we denote by C, and we take derivatives both sides. Delta K by delta Y should be equal to C. Now, due to identity of net savings equals net investment, we equate S equals I. We write S as S into capital Y and I as delta K. Now from our earlier analysis, we know delta K is equals C into delta Y. So we just rearrange the terms, divide both sides by Y. and we got this term. This is the key equation of Harrod-Domar model. Okay, now some implications. Lower C, increase in efficiency of capital. Capital utilization, which results in increase in growth rate of GDP. Okay, because greater output can be attained from additional investment. Alright, let's do a numerical example for Harrod-Domar model. Let us say we are given C equals 3, S equals 6%. So we have GY equals S upon C. We get growth rate of GDP as 2%. Now if S increases to 15%, get GY as S upon C, exchange rate upon capital output ratio, 15% upon 3, we get this as 5%. So you see, if savings increases, GY inflates or increases. Okay, so from this we can say that main constraint on development is relatively low level of new capital formation in most poor countries. Now they don't have much resources to allocate to savings or investment, therefore this acts as a constraint in most poor countries. Alright. Now if we say GY increases due to increasing improvement in efficiency of capital utilization, that is capital utilization, that is efficiency increases or C falls. If C now falls to 2.5, then GY turns 6% upon 2.5, 2.4%. So this was a small numerical. Okay. Now we would turn to next topic, that would be the Lewis model. Lewis model of economic growth. Alright. A theory of development in which surplus labor from traditional agricultural sector is transferred to the modern industrial sector. The growth of which absorbs the surplus labor it promotes industrialization and stimulates sustained development. Sustained development. So basically, what Lewis model talks about, there are two sectors. One is traditional agricultural sector or traditional sector, basically traditional overpopulated rural sector. And second one, we have high productivity modern industrial sector. Modern industrial sector. So there are some categorizations and features of both these sectors given in Lewis model, which is in MPL, marginal productivity of labor surplus, labor is zero or negative. And in high productivity sector, the surplus labor, which has no additions to the output in traditional rural sector, that is transferred. The labor transfers itself or migrates to the high productivity modern industrial sector. Labor transferred from traditional sector. From traditional sector. Okay. Now there is a term known as structural transformation. Which basically tells about we are transforming the economy and we are taking it away from the agricultural sector dominance to industrial sector dominance. Like we are transforming the industrial sector in a way that contribution to GDP of agricultural sector is shifted to uh, contribution of GDP to industrial sector. Okay, so this is the process of transforming the economy in such a way that the contribution to national income by manufacturing sector eventually surpasses the contribution by agricultural sector. So we are basically altering the composition of the economy. Okay, so this is a major alteration in industrial composition of any economy. Okay, so and all we also know surplus labor in rural traditional sector, that is categorized by marginal productivity zero or negative. Okay, now in modern sector, the output expansion is by labor transfer and employment creation. Expansion. Okay. But what fuels this expansion? That is modern sector capital accumulation, investment, and capital accumulation in modern sector. So basically, in modern sector, industrial industries are owned by capitalist section of the society. So basically, they reinvest their profits, and this goes on till they make more profits, and they start reinvesting and keep on reinvesting. So therefore, this fuels the modern sector expansion along with labor transfer, which goes from agricultural rural sector to this modern sector. Okay, but how is this investment possible? This is possible from excess of modern sector profits over wages. Modern sector profits over wages. Okay, capitalist reinvest all their profits. Reinvest all their profits. Okay. Now there are some features like wages in the modern sector. They are determined by our modern microeconomic theory up to the point where marginal productivity of labor is equal to the wage rate. Okay, from labor demand condition. Also, labor supply schedule perfectly elastic to this constant urban sector wage to wage rate. Okay, in urban sector, the modern sector. Okay, so basically now we will be drawing a diagram. This diagram very important because we have got to explain these diagrams along with the production technologies. So in the additional agricultural sector, rural traditional agricultural sector, we have total product as a function of the total product as a function of A bar A, capital is fixed, labor and technology, that is a fixed parameter. Also, wages are determined by average product of labor. But in modern sector, we have total product as a function of fixed capital, labor, and given technology, and wages are given by the marginal productivity of labor in modern sector. Now we are drawing the diagrams. So basically, we have four panels. One second. So we have four panels. The left hand side would correspond to modern sector. The right hand side is for traditional sector. Modern sector, and this is traditional sector. Okay. So here we will be drawing that in the modern sector, as we increase the capital allocation or capital investment, our output grows exponentially, or basically in total product terms, we draw three curves like that, and we name them TPM1, TPM2, and TPM3. Uh, so we basically label some labor allocations for each. As surplus labor gets employment in our modern sector, the labor begins to increase and our total product also increases. So this is TP1, TP2, and total product 3. This will be L1, L2, L3. Okay. Now with this superimposing these labor levels, labor quantities here, where we have a perfectly elastic supply of labor. So that would be denoted by this. Then we have demand for labor, which when they will intersect the supply curve, we will get labor demands. And this is our wage level. And this demand curves for labor are also, in a way, linked to the marginal productivities. So please practice these diagrams from the reading. So this is our T3, demand curve 2, demand curve 1. This correspond to marginal productivities. And we are mentioning wage modern sector by M and A. Agriculture sector at lower than this. Okay. And also in modern sector, we are denoting labor in thousands of quantities. And here we will be denoting in millions because there is some surplus labor, basic assumption of Lewis model. Okay. Now here total product increases normally and then it turns constant. From here point onwards, the marginal productivity is 0 or negative. So this is TPA. Now we take this labor level and here we have WA as TPA upon LA as average product of labor equals the wage rate here. So we draw our average product of labor here and we get our wage rate. Here wage equals average product. This is our labor quantity. Now our marginal productivity is diminishing and it eventually turns 0 and therefore this entire portion is surplus labor. Okay, so if there comes a question to explain Lewis model, we have got to explain its main proposition about from where there is surplus labor and how it is being attracted to higher wages, higher constant wages in urban modern sector, and we have got to explain, make these diagrams, modern sector plus traditional sector, and then explain the workings, and then that would be all for this. Now there are some criticisms given for Lewis model. Let's quickly write them in brief. You can also you must read also these criticisms as they can be asked. They can ask us for the criticisms, and this can give us around 12 to 15 marks also. Okay. Criticisms, Lewis model. So basically, first they say that like that there is a notion that there is a continued existence of constant real urban wages. Real urban wages until the point that surplus labor is exhausted. Surplus labor exhausted. But this is not really true because there are structural factors and institutional factors in urban market such as union bargaining powers, and MNCs hiring processes which tend to distort this competitive market, uh, and in the modern sector labor market is not able to function at the most efficient level. Labor market distortions, so you can explain them in your own words also, but use the readings text keywords also. Okay. Now, next thing, now also there is a notion that surplus labor exists in rural regional sector, surplus labor existence, but empirical research has told us that there's not such volume surplus labor. Okay, so this is a point about surplus labor existence. Then there is that in modern sector we are relying for output expansion on labor transfer, and the capital investment and employment creation. Labor transfer and capital investment. But what if but we are assuming that capitalists reinvest all their profits, and they uh, they go on hiring more labor, and in this way total product increases. But what if they invest in some technologies which are capital augmenting and labor saving? Then there comes a problem. Then there comes a problem. If profits reinvested in labor saving technology, then there comes a problem. So they have also given a diagram. So we're drawing freehand supply of labor, and let us say a demand curve at initial level is D1, and then our demand curve for labor is D2, and it is intersecting again with D1 and supply of labor, initial supply of labor only. So our labor has not increased, but total product has increased as we have invested in capital, say capital augmenting technologies. So here additions to capital, this is the wage, additions to capital stock, embody labor saving technical progress. So this model does not answer this question. What if capitalists invest in labor saving technologies? Okay. Now the fourth one, it talks about we are neglecting the importance of human capital formation. Human capital formation has no mention in the Lewis model. Okay, for productivity gains, for productivity gains, and there's also question mark on diminishing returns in modern industrial sector. But empirical research has told us that they are increasing returns. Diminishing returns in modern industrial sector. Modern industrial sector. So this was all about Lewis model. Now let's move forward with this chapter. And after Lewis model, we have some structural change and patterns of development. You should you can just give a quick read to it, but we will be going on with now international dependence evolution. This is an important topic from exam point of view. International dependence evolution. Okay, so what this section basically tells us, there are three theories based on neo-colonial dependence model, false paradigm model, and dual development thesis. So basically, these three theories, they are pointing towards some sort of dependence which developing countries have on developed nations, and some power groups, and the dynamics of power in the hands of few developed nations, and as they continue to exploit world market opportunities and influence economic decisions at the international level. So basically, they are telling us about that, and they talk about the terms dependence and dominance. Dependence and dominance relationship with the rich countries, the rich economies. Okay, so first let's begin with the neo-colonial dependence model. Then we have false paradigm model, and then the dual development thesis. After that, we'll be having the new classical model, in which we have solo model that you must have also studied for eco growth also. Okay, so let's begin with the new classical dependence model. All right. Okay, so I have opened the very section from the readings itself, you, so we can highlight the main content from the book itself. Okay, so here basically they are talking about the terms dependence and dominance in the international dependence revolution, where international dependence models viewed developing countries as best beset by institutional, political, economic rigidities, both domestic and international, and they're caught up in dependence and dominance relationship with the rich countries. All right. Then we start with the neo-colonial dependence model. Okay, the first major stream, which we call the neo-colonial dependence model, is an indirect outgrowth of Marxist thinking. So basically, they are referring to that this idea was basically founded by Karl Marx. It attributes existence and continuance of development primarily to the historical evolution of highly unequal international capitalist system of rich country poor country relationships. Okay. Whether because rich nations are intentionally exploitative or unintentionally neglectful, the coexistence of rich and poor nations in international system dominated by such unequal power relationships between the center and the periphery. They're referring the center as a developed countries and periphery, those around it that are developing countries. Certain groups in developing countries. Underdevelopment. Okay. In short, a new Marxist, neo-colonial view on development attributes large part of developing world's continuing poverty to the existing policies of industrial capitalist countries of the northern hemisphere and the extension in the form of smaller, powerful elite groups in less developed countries. Okay, so basically they are referring to these power groups which are perpetuating international capitalist systems, which are based on the notions of inequality, and they basically tell us that even these power groups they have certain small segments which are centered in developing economies, and they further their own interest there. Okay, so underdevelopment is thus seen as an externally induced phenomenon in contrast to the linear studies and structural change theories, which stress on internal constraints such as insufficient saving and investment or lack of education and skills. Right. So this is one important point. One must renounce the existence of economic, financial, and social mechanisms which, although they are manipulated by people, often function almost automatically, thus accentuating situation of wealth for some and poverty for the rest. These mechanisms are maneuvered directly or indirectly by the more developed countries by the very functioning, and they favor the interest of the people manipulating them. But in the end, they suffocate or condition the economies of the less developed countries. So the whole basic core of this new colonial dependence model, they are basically pointing towards the power in the hands of few rich nations who dominate the international economic ecosystem, and they they maneuver their own interest and drive their self-interest of wealth in the hands of few, and the rest nations they face extreme underdevelopment due to this externally induced phenomena. Okay, so these are some points I've highlighted which you can basically understand. Now we have this false paradigm model, which basically tells us that the policies which developing economies follow in their path to development, these policies are some kind of the another, some kind of or other, they are given by the developed economies and their models only. But these policies, it is not compulsory that those policies would work like in a similar way to make the economies grow and develop like they did in Western economies. So the propulsion of false paradigm model is that developing countries have failed to develop because the development strategies, usually which are given to them by Western economists, have been based on an incorrect model of development. The model, one that, for example, overstretches capital accumulation and market liberalization, but it does not give consideration to needed social institutional change. So like we studied in Harrod Domar model, like if we increase the savings rate, investment rate, and increase the efficiency of capital utilization, then our growth rate of GDP would increase. But this would work only if institutional and social factors are factored in. So they are saying that because the institutional factors such as central and remarkably resilient role of traditional social structures, highly unequal ownership of land and other property rights, a disproportionate control by local elites over domestic and international financial assets, and a very unequal access to credit, these policies that are based on neoclassical models, in many cases, they merely serve the vested interest of existing power groups, both domestic and international. In segments. Also, in addition, according to this argument, leading university intellectuals, trade unionists, high-level government economists, they're unwittingly served an unhealthy dose of alien concepts, elegant but inapplicable theoretical models. Okay, but like we need savings and investment rate to increase, and this would increase GDP growth. But according to Harrod Domar model and many other classical theories, but until and unless institutional factors and attitudinal changes occur in the economy along with social structures, these models would not contribute much to developing economy. Institutional factors. Okay, so this was all about false paradigm model. Now I've highlighted the points. I will provide this PDF link uh, in the description box. So now we are dealing with the third model under international revolution, which say dualistic development thesis. There is a notion of a world of dual societies of rich and poor nations, and in developing countries, pockets of wealth within broad areas of poverty. Dualism is basically the persistence of substantial and even increasing divergence between certain features of the economy, like rich and poor nations and between rich and poor people. So basically, there are four arguments given, such as there are different sets of conditions because some in which some are superior and some are inferior, they can coexist in a given space, such as Lewis' notion of coexistence of modern industrial sector. And fixed wages in urban sector and rural sector, they have average product uh, linked wages. The coexistence of wealthy, highly educated elites with masses of illiterate poor people, and the dependence notion of the coexistence of powerful and wealthy industrialized nations with weak, impoverished peasant societies also coexisting with them. So this coexistence is chronic and not merely transitional. It is not that it is temporary or it is only historical data, and it will be rectified. Although both the stages of growth theory and structural change models like Lewis' model, they implicitly make such an assumption, but this dualistic development thesis, uh, the international inequalities are increasing and this seem to refute it. And third would be not only do the degree of superiority or inferiority fail to show any signs of diminishing, but they even have an inherent tendency to increase. Okay. So these interrelations between the superior and inferior elements are such that the existence of superior elements does little or nothing to pull up the inferior element, let alone trickle down. So basically, they are saying that this coexistence of vastly divergent sections of society, such as urban sector, where there is highly productive, and traditional sector, where basically they are negligible productivity, and so, such as highly rich people, section of the population, and below poverty line population. Uh, there are interrelation between them, but the existence of these superior elements, which is coexisting, it does not take any wild efforts to pull up the inferior element. Okay, so this was all about our neo-colonial model, false paradigm model, and this dual development thesis model. Okay, so there are given some conclusions and implications. So you can go through them. So they're basically put in some theory which is not really relevant for the examination, but you can quickly read it. Now we will moving towards neoclassical counter-revolution market fundamentalism. Okay, so in neoclassical uh, market revolution, we have basically three approaches. That is the public choice approach, market-friendly approach, and free market approach. Okay. So the free market analysis it argues that markets alone are efficient. Product markets provide the best signals for investment in new activities. Labor markets respond to these new industries in appropriate ways. Producers know what is best for the economy, and the product and factor prices reflect accurate scarcity values of goods and services now in the future. Okay, there is perfectly competitive conditions in the market, and technology is freely available. But government intervention in the economy is not desirable, and it can produce and can result in distortionary and counterproductive outcomes. Now, the second would be our public choice theory. This is also known as new political economy approach. So this argues that governments can virtually do nothing, nothing right. This basically assumes that politicians, bureaucrats, citizens, states act solely from a self-interested perspective, using their power and authority for their own selfish ends. So basically, bureaucrats and public officials use their positions to extract bribes from rent-seeking citizens and to operate productive businesses on the side. Finally, states use their power to confiscate private property from individuals. So basically, states use their power to confiscate property from the individuals. Net result is not only a misallocation of resources, but a general reduction in individual freedoms and welfare. And it says minimal government is the best government. Now, third, we have market-friendly approach. So this approach recognizes that there are many imperfections in developing country product and factor markets, that government do have a key role to play in facilitating the operation of markets through non-selective market-friendly interventions. For example, investing in physical and social infrastructure, healthcare, and educational institutions. Now, this market-friendly approach is different from free market and public choice approach, as it accepts the existence of market failures, phenomena such as missing and incomplete information, externalities, also endemic to market in developing countries. Okay, so basically these are three small sections. You can go through them, but let's see if they have asked something from these topics in the past year question when we will be solving them. Now we have traditional neoclassical growth theory, okay, in which we have basically our solo model, okay, again. The solo neoclassical growth model in particular represents a seminal contribution to the neoclassical theory of growth, later earned Robert Solow Nobel Prize in Economics. So basically some data here. Now this model, as you may have studied in eco-growth and business cycles, it differed from Harrod-Domar formulation by adding swing factor labor and introducing a third independent variable, technology, that is denoted by A. Technology denoted by A. Unlike the fixed coefficient constant related to scale exemption or Harrod-Domar model, Solow's neoclassical growth model exhibited diminishing returns to labor and capital, and we have constant returns to scale. Okay. Now, formally, the standard exposition Solo neoclassical growth model, we have aggregate production function in this form: y equals k to the power alpha, el to the power 1 minus alpha, and this is an exogenous growth model in which growth in per capita output is fueled by technology, growth rate of technology, which is technological progress, which is exogenous. The Solo model implies that economies will converge to the same level of income per worker conditionally. That is, this is the convergence hypothesis. This is a convergence statement they are telling us. Other things must be equal, particularly savings rate, depreciation rate, labor force growth, and productivity. Okay, now there are some implications. Closed economies with lower savings rates grow more slowly in the short run than those with high savings rate and tend to converge to lower per capita income. Whereas open economies, they experience income convergence at high levels as capital flows from rich countries to poor countries where capital labor ratios are lower and thus returns on investments are higher. So this one is particularly important. So basically, openness is said to encourage greater access to foreign production ideas that can raise the rate of technological progress. So this was all about this. So we have completed unit number 2, 1 and 4. Okay. So after this, we basically have some conclusions and implications. You can read them and form your own understanding about this. But this was all. So this completes our unit 2, unit 4 and unit 1. For unit 3, I have attached the notes link in the description box of the video. You will get a drive folder link where you can access the notes and you can prepare unit 3 from there. Now we will be switching to past year problems and let's see what has been the 10 types of questions that have been asked from the past year question papers. Okay, so let's now switch to past year papers. Okay, so now we have PYQs from 2024 year. So question 1 is key similarities and differences from unit 1. So this was a good question for 18 marks. Now from question 2, A part, this is from unit 3. You can check out the notes from the description box of unit 3. Now B part I have solved here for Harrod-Dobar model. They are given with these data and using this we solve for the gross savings rate, that is 20%. Okay, well, let's see what the next question is. Okay, describe different kinds of linkages and their significance in the growth process. This is again from unit 3. Again from unit 3. Unit 3 is also scoring, like, but there's enough too much content and theoretical content, and it would not be possible to cover in a single video. So that can be covered by the notes, linkages, reading. Let's see question 4. Examine the idea of convergence. Discuss the different versions of income convergence. Explain HDI and the methodology of its construction. Okay. Now question 4A part is this is from unit 1, theoretical one. And we have uh, got to explain the idea of convergence. This should be from Neoclassical Revolution, basically it's from Solo module. Okay, so we had the idea of convergence here in this paragraph. The economies will converge to same level of per capita income if they have the same parameters, such as saving rate, depreciation rate, N, and productivity parameter. So from conclusions and implications also you can frame the answer. Okay. Now we have question 4b part, explain Human Development Index and the methodology of its construction. So in B part, you will explain Human Development Index, what it conveys and what it wants to uh, measure across the countries. You will explain how to compute the index of health, education, and income. And HDI would be geometric mean and its construction. You will explain the minimum and maximum values of uh, life expectancy, expected years of schooling, mean years of schooling, and GNI per capita. That is for income distribution. Also, since it is for 8 marks, we have got to write good content. So you will write some changes also, which have taken place, changes in HDI calculation, which we discussed in the in the initial part of our one shot session. Okay. Now question 5. This is the capability deprivation. So unit 5, unit 4, it is scoring capability deprivation. Okay, unit 4. All right. Now we have gotten question 6, the numerical, which we'll be solving here now. Let's see first if there is any other topic. Discuss the major debates regarding the strategies of economic development. Question 7 is again from unit 3. Unit 3. Then we have some short notes. Explain balanced growth, big push model of growth. This is again from unit 3. Question 8, international dependence revolution, in which we have got to explain those three: false paradigm, neo-colonial, and the dual development thesis. Then we have C part, argue that the ethical principles used in measurement of inequality exactly summarized in the concept of Lorenz curve. In this C part, you will explain the Lorenz criterion and explain a measure of poverty measurement would be Lorenz consistent if and only if it is consistent with all those four principles of anonymity, population relative, and Dalton principle. Then we have various measures of poverty. In this, we will explain our HCR, IGR, PGR ratios, which we did in Unit 4 section. Okay, so this was all, and we will now solve question number 6. So let's take the data from here. Question 6. So basically, they have given country A and country B. Country A and country B, and X is the income, X is the number of individuals, and Y is the income level. Okay. X is N and Y is income. So they require Gini coefficient and coefficient of variation. So we have to calculate G, coefficient of variation. Then we have second part, Lorenz curves. And we have third part, what can be said about the inequality rankings of these two income distributions using the three criteria: Gini, COV, and Lorenz curve. Rankings we have to tell. Fourth part, we have to calculate HCR, where poverty line is 50. HCR for both countries, poverty line is 50. So let's begin with all the parts now. Alright, so we have country A here. Here we have X, Y, basically 10, 10 and 10. Then we have Y, 20, 80, 20, 80. 20, 80, 80. Okay. Okay, so here we have computed the pairwise differences. If you find any error, do let me know in the comment box. We have taken pairwise differences. The formula for G we have written here 1 upon 2 into mean income into n square, and we'll multiply it with 2400. So we get G1 GA as 24 divided by 120 into 9.022. Okay, now for country B in a similar manner. Country B, we have X, Y, 10, 10, 10, 15, 45, 6500. So we take pairwise differences. So this comes out to be 0 plus 20 plus 55 plus 10 into 20 plus 0 plus 35 plus 10 into 55 plus 35 plus 0. Now this comes out to be 2200. And now Gini coefficient for country B equals 2200 upon 2. We have mean income as 700. So we have mean income as 700 into 30 square. So this comes out to be 0.0017. 174. Okay, now next thing we need to calculate is about coefficient of variation. So let's see how do we go about it. For country A, we have incomes as 20, 80, 80 and X 10, 10 and 10. Then we have deviations. Yi minus nu, absolute deviations, and we squared them up. So our mean was coming out to be 60. I'm not wrong. Yes, mean was coming out to be 60. So this would be 40 square, this would be 20 square, this would be 20 square. We will multiply these square divisions with the number of observations. X into di squares. This would come out to be 1600, 0, 400, another 0, 400, another 0. So our coefficient of variation, it is sigma upon x bar or 1 upon 60 under root of sum of squared deviations, that is 16,000 plus 8,000, 24,000 whole upon our n, that is 30. So this would come out to be 0.471 COVA. Okay, now if we move towards coefficient of variation for country B, here we have incomes as what we have 6,500, and number of observations same 10, 10, and 10. Then we have deviations, square deviations from the mean. This was coming out to be, I think, it was coming out to be 450 plus 650, 70. So we have made a mistake here. It will not be 700, it is 70 only. So this would be 0.017 only. So mean income is 70. So we take deviations 25 square, 5 square, 30 square multiplied by the deviations. Now this would come out to be 6250, 250, 9,000. Then we have country B, COV as sigma upon x bar. This would come out to be 1 upon 70 under root of 15,500 whole upon 30. Point 324. So this we have calculated Gini coefficients and coefficient of variations, that is A and B. Then second part we have to draw Lorenz curves. Second part, Lorenz curves. Okay. So first we take a square, then we draw a line of equality. All right. Now here will be cumulative income, and here will be cumulative population share. Okay. For country A, let's draw the schedule. This would be, we have first X as the population, 10, 10, and 10, and incomes were 20, 80, and 80. So cumulative population 10, 20, 30. Percentage wise, we take it to be 33%. Then we take it to be 66%, and this is 100%. Cumulative income we take now, we get 20, 100, and 180. Then we take cumulative income percentage. This comes out to be 20 upon 180, 0.11, 100 upon 180, 0.55, and 180 on 180 point. This would be 1. Okay, so basically cumulative population share, we have computed and cumulative income share. So this would be our required figures for plotting the data. Let's see, for cumulative population, we take a value such as 0.33, 0.66, and 1 here at the end. Okay. Now for 0.33, we have cumulative income share at 0.11. 0.11. So we take 0.11 at somewhat here distance. It's about here. Then for 0.66, we have 0.55. 0.55 would be somewhere after the halfway mark, somewhat here. Somewhat here. Then for 100%, we have 1 only. So our Lorenz curve for country A would go something like this. Something like this. Okay. So for country B also, we have to make the same schedules. We have X, then we have Y. Cumulative X, we take 10, 20, 30 percentage. Cumulative X, we take 33%, 66%, and 100%. Then Y, we have 45, 65, and 100. Then cumulative Y, we get 45, 110, 210. Cumulative income percentage, we take it as 0.21, then 0.52. So basically how to make the schedule is, you take the cumulative incomes and cumulative population first, then you take percentages. Like for this one, you divide 10 upon 30 into 100, 20 upon 30 into 100, 30 upon 30 into 100. Same for Y. Okay, then it is 100%. So at 0.33, we have 0.21. 0.33. Let's take a different color for country B. Stick red. 0.33, we have 0.21. Somewhat here. Then for 0.66, we have 0.52. 0.52. 0.66. 0.52. Okay. But for country A, it was 0.55. So it would be something like less than this. Okay. So country B, Lorenz curve, it is somewhat messy, but you would just understand what are we trying to explain. So these curves are crossing. This was for B and this white one is for A. Okay. Now let's see what part C wants us to do. If the curves are not crossing and I had made some mistake, do tell me in the comment box so that it would help all the other people as well. Okay. Part C now. It tells says what can be said about the inequality rankings using 3 criteria: Gini, COV, and Lorenz curves. For through Gini, we can uh, say that for GA we have 0.022, and for Gini coefficient of country B we had 0.017. So basically country B is more unequal. B more unequal. Through coefficient of variation, we can say that country A 0.471, country B 0.324. So country A is more unequal. And Lorenz curve, we can make no comparison, no ranking that Gini coefficient are intersecting. Gini coefficients are intersecting. Okay. Now, if they're not intersecting, do let me know, because I think I have done in the correct manner, because I've taken the correct cumulative population shares and cumulative income shares. But rest assured, let me know. Okay. Let's see now part D. Calculate headcount ratio. Now part D, HCR when poverty line is 50. So let us say for HCR A, we have how many people are below the poverty line of 50 units. That is only 10 people. So this would come out to be 10 upon 30, 33%. HCR B less than 50 units. Here also we have got 10 upon 30. If you think there is any mistake in the calculation or solution part, you should let me know in the comment box. Okay. So this was all about our PYQ. Now I think I've got another PYQ also, that is from BA program, but it's the subject is same, introductory development economics. So let's see if we can infer something about the question types from there. Okay, so this question, we have question 1, analyze how UNDP's HDI provides a broad framework for comparing nations by incorporating key dimensions of health, education, and standard of living. So basically, we have got to explain whole HDI methodology, its changes, its criticisms, and all. Okay. Question 2, key similarity and differences. Again, similar question from Unit 1. Question 3, examine the historical process of great divergence. This is also from Unit 1. You can go through it once. Let us open the PDF of the book and try to find great divergence. Basically, you can find it in Unit 1 only. Great divergence. Okay. I will add in the comment section where is the particular topic. Okay. Then we have another question. Key stages by W. Rostow, that is Rostow's stages of growth theory. To what extent does this linear model capture the realities of development? This again from unit number 2. Okay. Now question 5 is from Lewis model. They are explaining. They are telling us to explain the strengths and limitations, which we have covered in our video so far. Now we have to also make the diagrams. With the help of diagram, explain how it addresses issues of labor surplus, capital accumulation, and income distribution in the process of economic growth. So basically, you have to explain whole concept of Lewis model, its assumptions, its workings with traditional sector and modern sector. Then question 6, explain Nurse's concept of vicious circle of poverty. This is again from unit number 3. Okay, so basically we have discussed, there are basically some similar types of questions which are asked from in every paper. Now let's move to another question paper if we can. Okay.